Wow, this one is a doozy. We're diving deep into some really serious accusations against two hip-hop giants,
Mm-hmm.
Jay-Z and Sean Diddy Combs.
Right.
It's a case that has sent shockwaves through the entertainment world, and things just got even more intense with Jay-Z being added to a lawsuit originally filed against Diddy.
Yeah.
So we've got court documents, statements from all sides,
Mm.
and a whole lot of questions to untangle.
Yeah.
Think of this as your crash course on this rapidly evolving legal battle. And stick with us because the implications go way beyond these two high-profile figures.
What's really fascinating here is how this is all unfolding.
Yeah.
You have this lawsuit that was initially filed back in October against Diddy.
Right.
And then just recently, the plaintiff's legal team decided to amend it to include Jay-Z.
Okay.
And this is a big deal, as he's the first celebrity directly linked to Diddy in all of this.
Okay, so before we get into the back and forth, let's break down exactly what the lawsuit alleges. We're talking about some very heavy accusations here.
Absolutely. The lawsuit was filed by a woman identified as Jane Doe. And she claims that back in 2000, when she was only 13 years old, she was assaulted by both Jay-Z and Diddy at an after-party for the MTV Video Music Awards.
An after-party for the VMAs. I mean, that's a pretty high-profile event.
Yeah?
Just claiming this happened in front of a lot of potential witnesses.
Right. And the details she provides are pretty disturbing.
Uh-huh.
She claims she had a drink at the party,
Okay.
started feeling unwell, and then wandered into a bedroom where the alleged assault took place.
Hold on. A 13-year-old was served alcohol at this party.
That's what she alleges in the lawsuit.
Wow.
And she goes on to claim that Jay-Z assaulted her first, followed by Diddy.
Wow. I have to say, these delayed accusations are becoming more common, especially with the rise of the #MeToo movement.
Right.
But from a legal standpoint, what makes these cases particularly challenging?
Well, think about it. We're talking about an incident that allegedly happened over 2 decades ago.
Right.
Gathering evidence after so many years is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
Memories fade.
Mm-hmm.
Witnesses might be hard to track down, and physical evidence may no longer exist.
Right.
It's a massive uphill battle for the legal teams involved.
Okay, so back to the lawsuit. It sounds like things escalated even further at that point.
That's right. Doe claims that she hit Diddy and then managed to flee the party.
Okay.
It's a very harrowing account, but there's another layer to this that we need to unpack.
What's that?
Jay-Z wasn't initially named in the lawsuit. He was referred to as Celebrity A in the original filing.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't until recently that Doe's lawyers explicitly added his name.
Okay.
They claim they tried to mediate with Jay-Z before taking this step, but allege that he responded with a conspiracy of harassment to try and silence them.
Conspiracy of harassment. That's a pretty strong accusation.
It is, and it's one of the many points of contention in this already complicated case.
So Jay-Z hasn't exactly stayed silent in the face of these accusations.
Right.
His response has been quite aggressive, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. He's issued a very strong denial and has actually called for Doe to file a criminal complaint instead of pursuing a civil lawsuit.
So he's basically challenging her to go to the police.
Exactly. In his statement to CNN, he said, and I quote,
Okay.
"Whomever would commit such a crime against a minor should be locked away. Would you not agree?"
It's a pretty bold statement. It almost feels like he's saying that if she's going to make these accusations, she needs to be prepared to back them up in a criminal court.
Right. And he didn't stop there.
Okay.
He also labeled the mediation request from Doe's attorney as a blackmail attempt
Yeah.
and was very critical of the attorney.
Okay.
Tony Busby suggesting he has a history of this kind of behavior.
It seems like he's going on the offensive, trying to discredit both Doe and her lawyer before this case even gets to court.
That's certainly how it appears.
Okay, so we have this incredibly serious accusation, a forceful denial, and now it seems like a war of words is brewing.
Right.
And we haven't even gotten to Diddy's legal situation yet.
We'll get to that in just a minute. But before we move on, Jay-Z also made a point of saying that his only heartbreak in all of this is for his family, especially his children, who might be exposed to these allegations through their friends and the media.
It's a reminder that high-profile cases like this can have a ripple effect far beyond the courtroom.
Absolutely. The impact on families' reputations and public perception can be immense.
Okay, so let's shift gears and talk about Diddy. What's his legal situation looking like right now?
Diddy's facing his own set of legal issues.
Okay.
He's actually under indictment on several serious charges, including sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, and prostitution-related charges.
Whoa, those are some major charges. Has he responded to those?
He has. Diddy has pleaded not guilty to all the charges and maintains his innocence.
Okay.
And on top of that, he's also facing about 30 civil lawsuits, separate from this one with Jane Doe.
Right.
And he denies any wrongdoing in those cases as well.
Okay, so we have two powerful figures, both facing accusations of serious misconduct, both vehemently denying any involvement. This is already incredibly complex, but there's yet another layer to this whole thing that we need to peel back.
Mhm.
You mentioned the attorney representing Jane Doe, Tony Buzbee.
Right.
He's facing his own legal battle right now, isn't he?
He is a separate lawsuit has been filed against Busby by an anonymous celebrity who's accusing him of extortion.
Extortion. That's
Yeah.
a serious accusation. What exactly is this celebrity claiming?
This anonymous celebrity alleges that Busby threatened to fabricate sexual assault allegations against him if he didn't meet certain demands.
Wow.
It's a pretty explosive claim that throws another wrench into this whole situation.
So you have these accusations flying back and forth with everyone involved claiming they're the victim.
Mhm.
It paints a pretty chaotic picture of this legal battle.
It does, and it raises some important questions about the motivations and credibility of all parties involved.
Has Busby responded to these extortion claims?
Yes, he's vehemently denied the allegations, stating that his firm is dedicated to supporting survivors and that the truth will ultimately come out. He also directly addressed Jay-Z's statement, claiming that Jane Doe never sought any financial compensation from Jay-Z and only wanted mediation.
Wow, so it's a real he said, she said situation.
Yeah.
What do you make of all of this, especially with Busby now facing his own legal challenges?
Mm.
It feels like this case could go in a million different directions.
It definitely adds a layer of complexity to the case.
Yeah.
Busby's reputation and credibility are now being called into question, and that could potentially have an impact on how the lawsuit against Jay-Z and Diddy proceeds.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this whole situation really highlights the challenges inherent in cases like this, especially when they involve events from so long ago.
Right.
How do you even begin to piece together the truth in a situation like this? That's what we're going to try to unravel today.
Yeah.
Stick with us as we continue our deep dive into this tangled web of accusations, denials, and legal maneuvering.
It's going to be interesting.
It is.
It is. It's a puzzle with a lot of missing pieces, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's made even more complicated by the fact that we're dealing with accusations against some incredibly powerful figures.
True. Jay-Z and Diddy aren't just musicians. They're moguls.
Mm-hmm.
They have a huge amount of influence and resources at their disposal.
Right.
Does that level of celebrity make it harder for alleged victims to come forward? Or does it actually give them a bigger platform to be heard?
That's a great question, and there's no easy answer.
Yeah.
On one hand, the hashtag #MeToo movement has shown us that even the most powerful individuals can be held accountable for their actions.
Right.
But on the other hand, celebrities have access to top-tier legal teams and PR strategists who can work tirelessly to protect their image and discredit their accusers.
So it can be a double-edged sword.
Mm-hmm.
It gives victims a voice, but it also puts them up against a formidable opponent.
Yeah.
And let's not forget the court of public opinion, which can be just as powerful as any legal proceeding.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Social media has become a battleground where reputations can be built up or torn down in an instant.
Yeah.
We've seen how quickly public sentiment can shift in these types of cases. And that pressure can have a real impact on the legal process, even if it's not supposed to.
It's almost like there's this parallel trial happening online with everyone weighing in and forming their own judgments. But we need to remember that the legal system operates on evidence and due process, not hashtags and viral tweets.
Exactly. And it's also important to remember that regardless of what we might think or feel about the accusations, everyone involved deserves a fair hearing.
That's a really good point. We can't let our own biases or opinions cloud the legal process.
Right. And there's another layer to this that we haven't touched on yet, the potential impact on the hashtag #MeToo movement as a whole.
Oh, yeah. How does this case fit into that larger conversation about sexual assault and accountability?
Well, the hashtag #MeToo movement has brought about a lot of positive change.
Mm-hmm.
It's encouraged more survivors to come forward.
Right.
And it's forced society to confront the pervasiveness of sexual harassment and assault.
Right.
But cases like this involving high-profile figures and delayed accusations can be really tricky.
How so?
Because if the allegations are proven false, it could be used to discredit the entire movement, even though the vast majority of accusations are legitimate.
Right.
On the other hand, if the allegations are proven true, it reinforces the message that no one is above the law.
So it's a high-stakes situation with the potential to influence the trajectory of the hashtag #MeToo movement itself.
Exactly. And it also raises some broader questions about power dynamics, not just in the entertainment industry, but in society as a whole.
That's something I've been thinking about a lot.
Yeah.
This case is like a microcosm of a much bigger problem, the
Yeah.
abuse of power and the lengths that people will go to protect it.
It's a systemic issue. Whenever you have individuals in positions of authority or celebrity, there's a risk that those positions will be used to manipulate or silence others.
So what can we do to address these imbalances and create a safer environment for everyone? It
Right.
feels like such a daunting task.
It is daunting, but it's not impossible.
Yeah.
It requires a multi-pronged approach. We need stronger legal protections for victims of assault and harassment, clear and consistent consequences for those who abuse their power, and a cultural shift that prioritizes consent, respect, and accountability.
Okay, so break that down for me. What does that cultural shift actually look like?
It's about changing the attitudes and behaviors that perpetuate these power imbalances.
Okay.
It's about creating a culture where abuse isn't tolerated or excused.
Hmm.
It's about teaching young people about consent and healthy relationships. And it's about holding each other accountable for our words and actions.
It sounds like a huge undertaking, but it's clearly necessary.
Absolutely. We all have a role to play in creating a more just and equitable society.
And this case, regardless of its outcome, serves as a stark reminder of the work that still needs to be done.
I agree. It's not just about the specific allegations and legal proceedings, but about the broader societal issues that this case brings to light. It's an opportunity for all of us to reflect on our own roles in perpetuating or challenging these systems of power and inequality.
So as we move forward with this deep dive, let's keep that bigger picture in mind. This isn't just a celebrity gossip story. It's a reflection of who we are as a society and what we value. And with so much at stake, we need to be really careful about how we consume and interpret the information that's coming out.
You're right, this case is far from over, and it's bound to generate even more headlines and controversy in the coming months.
We've already seen so many twists and turns, and I have a feeling there are more surprises in store. But beyond the legal drama, there's some really important questions that we need to grapple with. Questions about power, memory, justice, and how we as a society navigate these complex issues.
And those are the questions that we're going to explore in the next part of our deep dive. We'll dig deeper into the legal challenges of delayed accusations, the impact of celebrity on such cases, and what this all means for the ongoing fight for equality and justice. Stay with us.
Okay, so we've unpacked the allegations, explored the responses, and even touched on the legal battles surrounding Tony Busby, the attorney representing Jane Doe.
Right.
But this case is about so much more than just a he said, she said scenario, right?
Absolutely. What's fascinating here is how this case forces us to confront some really uncomfortable truths about power, memory, and justice in our society.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier the unique challenges of dealing with accusations that stem from events that happened decades ago. We're talking about an alleged assault from 2000.
Yeah.
How common are these types of delayed accusations, and what makes them so difficult to prosecute?
They're becoming increasingly common, particularly in the wake of the hashtag #MeToo movement, which has empowered many survivors to come forward, often years or even decades after the alleged abuse occurred.
Right.
The challenge, of course, is that the passage of time can make it incredibly difficult to gather reliable evidence.
Yeah.
Memories fade, witnesses may be hard to locate or may have conflicting accounts,
Right.
and physical evidence might be long gone.
So it becomes a battle of credibility.
In many ways, yes, and that's where things get really complicated,
Yeah.
especially when you're dealing with high-profile individuals like Jay-Z and Diddy.
Right.
They have the resources to hire top-notch legal teams who can challenge every aspect of the accuser's story and attempt to poke holes in their credibility.
It makes you wonder about all the cases that never even see the light of day because the alleged victims feel like they just don't have the resources or the platform to fight back against such powerful figures.
It's a sobering thought, and it speaks to the power imbalances that often exist in these situations. But let's not forget, the legal system is designed to be impartial, and everyone involved deserves a fair hearing regardless of their wealth or status.
That's true, but you can't deny that public perception plays a role in these cases. Social media is ablaze with opinions and speculation, and it's easy to get caught up in the court of public opinion, even if it has no bearing on the actual legal proceedings.
It's a phenomenon we've seen play out time and time again.
Yeah.
And it highlights the need for critical thinking, especially in the age of information overload. We're bombarded with headlines, opinions, and snippets of information from all sides, and it's our responsibility to sift through it all, to consider different perspectives, and to avoid jumping to conclusions.
So what can our listeners do to stay informed about this case without getting lost in the noise and the speculation?
I think the most important thing is to rely on credible sources of information. Look for news outlets that have a reputation for accurate reporting, and be wary of sensationalized headlines or stories that seem designed to provoke an emotional response.
Okay.
And remember, legal cases can be long and drawn-out processes, so be patient and allow the justice system to run its course.
We've covered a lot of ground today, and it's clear that this case raises some really important questions about power accountability and the challenges of seeking justice in a system that can often feel stacked against the less powerful.
Right.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one takeaway you'd like our listeners to walk away with?
Here's a final thought for you to consider. This case isn't just about Jay-Z and Diddy. It's a reflection of a much larger conversation we need to be having as a society about how we address issues of sexual assault, how we support survivors, and how we hold those in positions of power accountable for their actions. It's a conversation that requires empathy, critical thinking, and a willingness to challenge our own assumptions and biases.
It's a powerful reminder that these issues are complex, nuanced, and they demand our attention. So thank you for joining us on this deep dive, and keep those conversations going until next time. Stay curious and stay engaged.